They put the first chain on me and asked me to breathe like nothing was happening. My voice still shakes when I say that, because the room didn't feel like a room anymore after that first clink. At first, it was clinical, a metal folding chair, a single bare bulb that hummed like an insect, the kind of fluorescent light that makes skin look thin and wrong. There was a smell of cold disinfectant and old iron, like the memory of a hospital that had been emptied for years. I remember the way the vinyl of the chair squeaked beneath me when I sat, the sound too loud in a place designed to swallow noise. They called it the chain experiment, said it would measure something about connection, about influence. The people in lab coats, if you can call them that, spoke in neutral tones, not cruel, but not kind either, like someone reciting terms during a transaction. They wrapped the first loop of chain around the back of my head and tightened it just enough for me to feel the weight. It wasn't painful, not at first. It was more like a suggestion, a presence pressing at the base of my skull. I tasted metal, coppery and immediate, as if the chain had given me the taste of its memory. The chains splayed out like spider legs from a knot at the crown of my head, each strand anchored to a different wall of the chamber, and the angles made my eyes want to follow them until I felt dizzy. When I looked, the ends disappeared into darkness, the room's edges swallowed up by the bulb's unwilling glare. Sound changed. A distant clink echoed like conversation. My own breathing multiplied into a chorus. The chains were quiet until someone in the corner clicked a switch, and the first soft, mechanical hum ran through them. That hum mapped out a rhythm that soon matched my pulse. At first, the strange things were small, an involuntary flexing of my tongue, a slip of a memory I hadn't wanted to find, the sensation of being watched from inside my head. Then the chains began to tug. Not hard, not like a physical yank, but like fingers plucking at the threads of me. Each little pull unlocked an image. A child's laugh I couldn't place, the smell of my childhood kitchen, the exact way rain sounded on a rooftop I couldn't name. They were not my memories at first. They were fragments that stitched too neatly into places in my mind and made me suspect I was misremembering my own life. Silence hovered between those tugs, and in those quiet seconds, the room felt unnaturally close. The bulb buzzed. Somewhere beyond the walls, someone laughed softly, the sound thin and amused. I tried to tell them to stop. My voice was swallowed by the chains as if it had to travel down the metal to be understood. The people taking notes didn't look at me. They watched the knot on my head and the way the chains swallowed the light. When they leaned in, the chains slackened like a leash between breaths, and the knot at my crown seemed to pulse, like a heart made of links. I thought then that the worst thing would be the physical restraint. I was wrong. The first thing the chains took was my certainty. The tugging became a conversation, and the voices weren't coming from the room anymore. They were coming from the chains themselves. At first, it was fragments, syllables like driftwood. Remember, home, did you? Then whole sentences threaded through my skull as if someone had turned a page inside my head. They weren't my words. They were other people's memories, slipping between my thoughts like water through a sieve, warm and wrong. I tried to clamp down on them, to hold on to the syntax of my own life, my mother's face, the street I grew up on. But each image the chains offered arrived so vivid I couldn't tell which belonged to me. I saw a hallway with red wallpaper that smelled of boiled cabbage, a hand with a scar on the knuckle that matched one I didn't have, a woman's voice singing out of tune while a kettle screamed. Each memory landed like a seed and rooted fast. I tasted those kitchens, felt their heat, and in the same breath felt a child's small, terrified body pressed against mine. The boundaries between mine and theirs blurred until they were nonsense. Then came the sound, the one that made my teeth ache. At first it was a low, keening resonance traveling along metal, a chorus of whispers, then a layered groan, like the building itself was making confession. It harmonized with the hum someone had started earlier, and suddenly the frequencies in my head arranged themselves into language. I knew, with the clarity of a new scar, that what the experimenters were doing was not measuring connection, they were knitting it. The chains didn't just anchor us physically, they were wiring memory into memory, placing foreign lives inside tender places. They wanted us to feel one another, to learn how each mind might pull us apart. There was a wetness at my temple. I reached up, and my hand came away with dust that tasted like paper and rot. A new tug, sharp as a breath, flung an image at me so fast it left a stinging echo. A child's bedroom, a scratched wooden horse, a photograph torn in two. The face in that photo was wearing my eyes. I realized then that the knot was not merely holding chains, it was cataloging us, matching faces to fragments, stitching pieces where they fit. Panic rose like bile. If the knot could match a photograph to a borrowed memory, what stopped it from rearranging the rest of me? I heard someone laugh again, but the laugh wasn't from the observers. It threaded into the chorus in my head and sounded like my own. The room tilted. My legs felt leaden, but my pulse raced like a trapped animal. Around me, the other chains shuddered as if other people were calling out, please, names, one phrase repeated until it became a mantra. Find her. Find her. Whose voice was that? Was it mine? A memory flared of a woman in a red coat. No, not mine. And then a colder certainty. She was not in the room at all. The experimenters scribbled, their pens scratching like little knives. One of them moved closer, and I could see the reflection of the chains in his eyes. He smiled without humor. The knot at my crown tightened. When metal bites, it leaves a taste you can't wash away. The chains pulled again, and with each pull, other lives claimed more of my space. I was losing small things first, my favorite song, the exact weight of my father's hand. Then larger things, the name of the street I thought I remembered, the lie I had told to protect someone. Whatever they were building out of us was beginning to take shape. The room narrowed into a pulse. Every sound folded into the low mechanical hum until the voices and the machinery were indistinguishable, part of the same apparatus that had been stitching us together. I remember thinking absurdly that if I closed my eyes, I could see the pattern of the chains as if they were threads on a loom, weaving and unweaving the map of who I was. Then the loom began to pull back. Panic arrived as a pressure behind the eyes. The knot at my crown tightened as if someone had taken the ends of my thoughts and wound them into a spool. The foreign memories stopped being gentle invasions and began to demand. They came as commands, images with edges, insistences that tugged like sharp teeth at the soft places in my mind. Find her, find her, find her. The repetition became a physical ache, waves of nausea that tasted like pennies and lemon peel. I could feel the chain's rhythm sinking to my breath, to the irregular beat beneath my ribs, and with each beat, the knot threaded another memory into my seams, until there was barely room for my own name. I tried to speak. The words came out thin, as if someone had siphoned air from my throat. My voice surfaced instead inside the chorus, rearranged, layered, handed back with a stranger's intonation. One of the observers leaned over, his pen a tiny, precise metronome. He wrote something that was not my name and smiled the way someone smiles at a successful experiment. The chairs around me creaked. Somewhere, maybe below the floorboards, maybe in the walls, other people were being knitted into other knots. The building sounded like a living thing unspooling. Adrenaline did odd things. My hands found the knot without me thinking. Metal was cold and relentless under my fingers. The links were slick with the smell of someone else's hair. For a second, I thought I could pull them free, yank the whole damn apparatus apart, and scatter the memories back to where they came from. I pulled. The knot resisted, then paradoxically loosened, like a muscle giving under a surgeon's hand. Images flooded me so quickly that I could not separate them. I saw a seaside cliff, a child's hands, a name scribbled in a child's hand, Eliza, and then the memory folded into another, my mother opening a door I had never seen. When the knot finally came loose enough to slide from my scalp, it did not fall away like a foreign object. It came with a weight of voices that filled my mouth and swam into my lungs. The observers shouted something. Alarm? Delight? But their sounds were remote, as if heard through water. On the floor, the knot did not unravel. Instead, it thinned and spread, like ink bleeding through paper, and for a terrifying moment, I understood its true function. It did not merely collect memories, it rearranged them into demands, into directives that could be carried by any voice it touched. I remember the last clear thing before everything went mercilessly plural. A girl in a red coat looking over her shoulder, eyes empty and pleading, and my own mouth shaping the words she would never speak aloud. The room contracted to that gaze. The chains hummed like bees in a jar. I am the knot.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.